This is Now We're Here. I'm Damon Lester. At the 2024 NAMAD annual membership meeting, I sat down with Reggie Davis. Reggie, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Reggie, look, welcome to the show, man. I want to just start off, get an understanding of where you're from, and let's talk about some of your background. So tell us a little background on where you're from and where'd you go to school and what's your background as far as career?
Okay, so I originally was born in Philadelphia,
Man, you ain't
Pennsylvania.
from no Philly.
I'm from Philly, baby.
Where
Go
you
Birds.
from? Where?
Diamond and Susquehanna.
Oh, you're from North Philly.
North Philly.
Temple University.
Yes, sir.
All
Yes,
right,
sir.
yeah,
Right
I'm
across
from
Broad
West Philly.
Street. Yeah.
I'm from West Philly, 47th Street, between Haverford and Fairmont, near West Catholic High. Where else was over there? The 48th Street L.
Yeah.
Or the Bottom is where I'm from.
Right.
Bottom Project. So, no, man, thank you. Thank you for joining me, man.
Thank you for having me.
All right, favorite cheesesteak?
You can't go to Pat's or any place like
That's
that.
right.
That's so general, and
Right.
it's not real cheesesteaks. That's commercialized.
Yeah.
You got to go to the mom and pop stores whenever
Yeah.
you can find them on the corner and get it there. That's the best cheesesteaks you can have.
Yeah. So, did you go to Temple?
No, I didn't. So
Okay.
my mom originally moved us down to North Carolina after some things were happening in Philly that she wasn't comfortable with. My dad stayed for a little while longer,
Right.
working his construction job, but we ended up coming to North Carolina, and I did all my school in North Carolina.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
So, do you get a chance to go back, Philly?
I go back every time we have a family event.
All right.
So it's just a normal trip for us.
North Philly is changing.
It is.
North Philly is turning into a little suburb right now.
It is a
Yep.
different place
Yeah.
altogether. Temple bought up all the properties
property,
around
yeah.
down there, so it looks completely different.
So, were you there? Did you hang out at the Gallery Mall?
Yeah. We used to catch the subway into the gallery, and we used to catch the subway over to see the Sixers play.
Yep.
I mean, it was
That's
a blast
right.
back then.
That's right. Oh man, yeah. You're anybody from Philly, their family. So
Yes.
man, that's what's up. What's up? So West Philly. I went to Archbishop Carroll and Radnor, Temple grad, and I wound up leaving Philly back in 96, 97, something like that, and moved to Maryland for work.
Okay.
So yeah. So lived in Maryland, North Carolina. Went to school in North Carolina. What did you do? Tell us about your career track. Where did you first start?
So actually, funny story. I went to North Carolina. Went there from 7th grade all the way through 12th grade. Ended up going to school. I was actually going to school to become an accountant. And at the time, I worked for I was working in a shipping yard, not a shipping yard, but Rubbermaid.
Okay.
It was a manufacturer deal, just trying to make it. But at the end of the day, my uncle actually got me involved in the car business while I was in college. And while I was in this dealership, it was a Chevy store on North Tryon Street in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Yeah.
Started there when I was 18 years old. Never had to take out a student loan selling cars.
Wow.
And by the time I was 20, I got promoted into F&I. Couldn't buy beer yet, but I was in F&I at that point. Didn't know what I didn't know. I was still partying and everything at that point.
Right.
Ended up getting married when I was 20. Still with her to this day.
That's awesome.
But worked at the Chevy store for 9 years.
Okay.
I went to a Ford store for a little 3 years of that time, but came back and stopped there right after 9/11.
Okay.
9/11 happened. I was running in the whole F&I department. We had me and 3 other guys. And I ended up 9/11 happened. We went from 350 cars a month down to 80. All of us couldn't eat anymore.
That's right.
JM&A had been calling me for 9 months. And at that point, I was kind of like, okay, whatever, I'll come see you. And they sent me a ticket in the mail. No idea how they got my address or anything. Got a paper plane ticket, flew down to Atlanta, met with them. They called me 2 weeks later and says,
That was it.
it's a verbal offer of employment. And I went down in December, did my 2 weeks class, and went on the road, traveling all over the country. So I got to see a lot of different ways that the industry actually works and the different ways people did business.
Right. So did you, the interesting thing about this industry and NAMAD in particular is once you get a bite of the auto bug, you don't lose that itch, right? It's very few people that leave or get introduced to it and want to leave, or they leave and they got to get back in because there is this, what's that feeling about this industry that you like?
So it's always, as long as I've been in it, again, I've been in it since 92.
Yeah.
As long as I've been in it, I'm still learning things every day. And I think the passion behind what I learn and I can
Right.
share with other people, outside of the money's great, don't get me wrong. But outside of that, I get more pleasure out of helping somebody else change their lifestyle or the way that they live. And that's the passion for me right now. With everything that changes in our industry and what we have to go through on a daily basis, that's one thing. But let me help them get over these hurdles.
So describe on your client base are dealerships or dealer owners or F&I finance and insurance folks. What is it that you all do from a training perspective, right? I'm gonna touch on three things: compliance, right? Benefit to your customer by way of product selling, and then from the owner's standpoint, the reinvesting of it all. So if you can touch on, let's say, the compliance component on how you bring that benefit to your dealer customers.
So I have 7 representatives that work for me in North Carolina. Of those 7 representatives, all of us have a responsibility to our dealers from a compliance standpoint. We actually partnered with Mosaic, which you may have heard of, that strictly is into dealership compliance overall. We have our own legal department as well, but that's something that we do on our daily visits into our stores, the things that we go through, the deals, and we're training people. We have our own file certification program that we call it Lesser now, and it's legal and ethical standards in automotive. And that's something that we share with our stores overall. So from that perspective, not only are we doing the training to get better performance out of our stores, but we're also training from a standpoint of let's do it the right way. We don't have to connive anybody to make somebody buy something or we don't have to do any of that stuff. But, with the new things that's coming out with the cars rules and things of that sort, what we do is proactively prepare for those types of things so that we know which direction we have to take. From a company standpoint, we're also contributing to legislature to make sure that some of these things don't come through. There's only so much we can control from our company standpoint, but from an overall support to our dealers, this is something that we do every day. Right?
So one of the things about F&I, since I've been in the dealership world, is there's this intimidation factor of the customer. They make the deal on the car. They figure out the car, they figure out the price, and then they go into the dark tunnel. And that dark tunnel is somewhere around the corner in an office where somebody's sitting, and that's where the magic happens, right? Because typically you got to close the door for privacy. So what are some of the ways that you've trained to get people or your dealer clients comfortable with the customer coming back there, right? Because there's this fear, I'm going to get taken advantage of.
Yeah, and that's always been part of the car business, unfortunately. What we try to do is change that image and give people the opportunity to make a friend before they ever bring them into the F&I office. It's our responsibility to show these F&I people and the sales managers, for that matter, that they're one department. They're not 2 different places. Right. So really, what we start at is having our F&I people at the desk. So they're knowing what's going on with a deal before it ever happens. They're getting that first introduction so that the customer feels comfortable meeting someone new during the whole process. And sometimes it helps us close deals out there on the front as well. Okay. But we get them from that point, so we build that rapport, build that relationship with them before we ever bring them back into an office. And depending on the dealership logistics and how everything is set up, we try to make that as streamlined as possible. But we also got different ways of doing it, something that we've evolved into that have brought a lot of interest to our dealers. And we started this pre-COVID, was virtual F&I. And right now we can actually do a whole deal with a customer, depending on state laws. We can do a whole deal with a customer while they're sitting at home.
So I'm gonna go back to something you said a little. You have how many people?
I have 7 reps in North Carolina.
And that represents how many clients?
We roughly have 86 full-fledged dealers.
You got 86 dealerships under your umbrella. So your title is something big, because you didn't want to say that. You were being humble, but you have a nice title.
Yes, so I'm the director of dealer performance, which in all accounts and purposes is the division manager
Okay.
in North Carolina, and I'm actually first African American that's had that title within JM&A Group.
Oh man, that's what's up, man.
And so I've been
Congrats.
here for 23 years though,
Okay.
but it has been a great ride, and I've learned so much along the way. But those people that are under me, I'm steadily training them
Right.
to become who I am.
So who pours into you?
So I have a female, Rodrika Black,
Okay.
who is absolutely amazing. African American lady. She is one of the strongest I've ever seen. We have Steve Stark, who also worked with Damian Mills in the Crown days, way back in the day. I have Randall Rounds. I have Greg Perotti, Jerry Brown, and Dave Lohr, all that roll up to me. So they have different parts of the state. They generally take about 10 to 12 deals because we want to make sure that we can cover all of our stores, right? Not only cover them, but make sure that they're sufficiently covered. When there's something that breaks down in the store, somebody's out, somebody's not doing something, and really part of our training, it's not necessarily giving somebody a book and saying, hey, do this or do this. We actually go in and do the deals and let them watch us.
Right.
And that's been my claim to fame from the very beginning.
Right.
And so that's how I started. That's what I knew how to do. And hey, you're going to hit some that's going to go out the park. Some of them just going to be a learning experience.
Right.
But at the end of the day, when you can train those people to do those things and they can see you do it, that's the difference maker that we have within our group.
So some drop some nuggets on some items of improvement that you've seen, that some commonalities that all your dealer customers have a challenge with in F&I. What are like the top 3 things where most consistent things you see that dealers need to improve on?
So the one thing that they really have to look at, especially now, and what we've seen with the inflation and the way that their structures, most dealers nowadays are in some type of participation structure.
Correct.
And from a dealer's perspective, you've got to be able to look at what your loss ratios are and things of that sort. So we do things around mitigation because service contract penetration has slipped a little bit since the pandemic. During the pandemic, everybody was in utopia, for so to speak, making money on the front end and the back end.
Yeah.
Now, that money on the back end has started to dwindle away. We've seen the interest rates go up, which was a challenge for a lot of these people, especially that just got into F&I once they during COVID. So they didn't really know what F&I was really about before that, and they had one perception of it. So we had to retrain all those people how to really talk to a customer, really sell something based on that customer's needs. The second part of it is looking at it from a dealer's perspective. These loss ratios have kind of spiked. And one of the things that I do in particular is I'm watching these things on a monthly basis to see any particular trends or things that can come up. So I'm advising the dealer on different things to put in place to make sure that those penetrations stay up, but also that their losses go down. One of those things might be...
It's good that you guys are doing that, because that's a true partnership, right? And a lot of companies don't look at us as partner, right? They look at us just as a vendor or a client that, okay, I'll take care of them when I get to them.
Right.
Versus taking care of them because I want to and I have to take care of them. And that's good that you're more proactive with looking after your customer. You have your folks look after the customer first, so that you can be more preventive to attack, right? And so I think that's a good aspect of what you guys are doing. It's awesome.
That's the key piece. You know, when it gets down to it, and the dealer owns these reinsurance companies, whether it's DOWC, CFCs, NCFs, whatever it might be, we want to make sure it's the most profitable way for them to do business. And so sometimes we had to have hard conversations about things that are going on in the stores, but that's where we're not just a vendor to a dealer. We want to be your partner.
Yeah.
You know, and again, I don't want this to be a solicitation or anything like that. I'm just telling you, we look at this as a true relationship, a friendship, not a business proposition. Business is involved, but this is really a true partnership.
So, man, when I bought my store, I'm getting thrown all these acronyms. I didn't know what the heck they was talking about, right? And I'm like, okay, well, help me understand what all this mean. What does DWO? What does all of this stuff mean for someone that has, one, and it's a first time in it, never been in F&I, never been in sales, right? Kind of knows the industry, but not have the nuts and bolts of the ins and outs of a dealership. It's hard to trust somebody when you don't really know, but you have a good idea what you want, but you don't, to say, you know what, here's the why. You need to go this route. If you want to grow, you may want to start here and then graduate to here. Because we hear for the minority dealer body, 95% of us are first generation, right? So we don't have that generational setup already.
Right.
And so it's like, okay, should I reinsurance? Where should I reinsurance? Should I do over remit? Can I do both? So it's real weird to get that dynamic and understand it, because we don't want to be vulnerable to say we don't know.
So earlier I mentioned to you, I really admire what you all have been doing and how you're educating the dealers here, and your involvement from a compliance standpoint, from an overall knowledge standpoint, because sharing knowledge is everything.
Yeah.
And one of the things that when we go into a new relationship with someone, I sit down with them and figure out what their overall needs are, not only short term, because unfortunately some dealers only think on a short term basis, I need this now, but also from the long term perspective. So we talked about the different structures that I gave you all the acronyms for, right? So CFC, Control Foreign Corporation, so typically it's called a foreign corporation, but it's domestic. I mean, it has tax benefits that you can get from a dealer perspective. It's capital gains when you take money back out of it. You got the NCFC, which is a non-controlled foreign corporation. It's more expensive to get involved in that type of deal, but from a share perspective and an investment standpoint, right, you're pooled in with other dealers about your size. So the investment income is so much higher than any other structure that you're going to get. Then you got the DOWC, again, a little bit more. DOWC is dealer-owned warranty company. Right. The contract has your name on it from the dealership. Even better tax opportunities there. But that's one that you have to keep growing to outrun that tax liability coming down the road. And depending on where a dealer fits in, and that's part of the reason I really wanted to be here, because over the past 3 years, I came to this 2 years ago. Last year I was unable to make it. And I talked to so many dealers that are exactly where I was 20 years ago that just didn't have the knowledge of what these things were and how they work. And I can go into detail about each one of these.
Or they know, but they don't want to say how well versed they know.
Right, right.
And that's the problem, right? That's that vulnerability. We don't want to make sure, you don't want to make anyone think that we don't know.
You know what?
And that's a fear for us being a first in.
The biggest fear that I have is someone to make the wrong decision because they didn't know or didn't ask the question. Yeah. Especially us. And I'm talking about minorities. That could be anybody. Yeah. But we have to get to the point where we can talk about these things and sit down and really have a educated conversation into all the things that could benefit a dealer, right, or the people inside the dealerships. We talked. We had the girl that was on yesterday from the Volkswagen store, and she was talking about the culture, right, and believe it or not, the culture drives everything around what happens in a dealership, whether it be right or wrong. And you can control a lot of the uncontrollables that you think that are there, if you have the right culture. One of the things with the culture, with us in particular, we want to be out there and educate the dealers on the best possible solutions to make the most off of the money that they have, but also to keep more of the money that they have. Yep. And so there's a fine line that you got to put in place to make sure that that's monitored very closely. I would say this too. People just look at us as a F&I company, and I understand that, but we're so much more than that. So we not only do the F&I training and support, we do sales training. Mm-hmm. We work with the service departments on fixed ops, which is an untapped area of the dealership that a lot of dealers
don't pay attention.
They don't pay attention to. All I want to do is sell a bunch of cars.
The industry has always come for the sales side versus the fix. That's right.
That's correct.
That's right. Yeah.
On another side of that, we're we're the factory underwriter for Volvo nationwide, Kia
Okay.
nationwide, and of course Toyota in the Southeast. Our sister company is SET, which is Southeast Toyota
Right.
distributor in the Southeast. But we have all kind of resources that are available to us. But if a dealer doesn't tell us what they need, we don't know what to give them. And
So how do you get people to feel comfortable to tell you? Like there's a skill to pull information out.
yes,
right?
it is.
So how would have just give me two quick ones? Like how do you get somebody to feel comfortable to say, look, I'm with JM&A, but I think I like them. I don't know if I'm really getting everything that I'm supposed to, and how do I maximize it? Because I see this dealer here, they doing all this cool stuff because I was at the golf club with him,
Mhm.
and he's telling me, and so we get this chatter amongst dealers of what someone else is doing, and they're like, well, why are you not doing? Why my guy didn't tell me that?
Right. And you know the unfortunate thing about that? If we have a dealer that doesn't know whether or not we're treating them right or if they're getting everything that they should be getting, that's a mistake on our part. We got to be accountable to that. But I would tell you this. One of the things that our check-ins are not just with F&I people or salespeople or even just general managers. We're making sure that we're in direct contact with these dealers so that they know everything that's available to them, because we do things like garage liability. We have health insurance now. We do all other things that we can benefit a dealer from that some of them didn't know.
Okay.
And so we try to make sure that we're in their ear all the time. We're inviting them to different seminars. We're inviting them to we have our own podcast within JM&A.
I was on it. Yeah.
Yeah. So you kind of know that's part of it. The thing that kind of caught me off guard a little bit is because we don't have as many minority dealers as we would like to have. And part of that has come from a lot of minority dealers thought that we were too big for them for whatever reason. I hate to call it what it is, but it's the truth. And it's never been that way with me. I don't care if you sell 15,000 cars or, 1,000 cars. We're going to do business the same way. And we're going to treat you just as well as we treat
That's
our
a
mega
message
dealers.
your guys got to get out, or a lot of the vendors need to get out, because we normally hear what the public companies are doing or this large dealer group's doing, and I got to have them. They don't want to be with me. I'm too small.
Right.
And that is a stigma. That's a mental thing for us. It's a mental thing for me personally too. Like, nah, maybe I'm not a good fit for them because I'm too small. But before we wrap up, I want to bring this back. Philly guy, North Carolina, accountant. I majored in accounting as well at Temple. What are the three things that you learned that if you knew what you know now, if you knew it now versus back then, what would you change?
I wanted to tell you, from then to now, I wish I would have listened more. And when I say listen with an intent to really understand where other people were coming from. That's the first thing. The second thing is, I think I would have done differently. Of course, I would have saved more, right? I wasted a lot along the way, and I still waste a lot, but I can. Yeah. And so there's nothing wrong with success along the way. But I would try to have shared more of that as I was going along. And I could have done a better job at that. I think I would have gotten our message out about my company and what we do more effectively. I just found out about NAMAD 5 years ago, and I've been with JM&A for 23 years. Right. There's something wrong with that. And so, getting out and getting into the public, telling them our message and sharing with other people to help them get to a better place, whatever that might be. I just want to ask the effective questions that benefit that person. The person sitting right across from you is always the most important.
That's right.
And if you always keep that in mind, because it wasn't my purpose in the beginning. I just wanted to make a lot of money and keep it moving. Yeah. Now it's about what can I do for that person. It's going to come back to me.
That's right.
regardless of what I give away or what I get, or what I do, it's going to come back to me one way or the other.
Right.
So that's really what I focus on now, is the growth internally as well as outwardly, what we can give to make someone else's life better.
Well, man, I really appreciate you taking the time, man. Thank you for coming to NAMAD.
I appreciate you for having me.
And got bit by the NAMAD family reunion that takes place here. And good luck to you. And we buds now. We want to talk Philly stuff. We're Eagles fan. All
Yes,
Philly
sir.
teams is what I'm about as well. And so,
Well,
thank
I'm
you for
coming to
being
Philly for some of these games, especially the Cowboys.
here. All right, you let me know.
Hey, I'll let you know. We'll get some tickets. We'll go.
You got a deal.
All
Thank
right?
you, man.
Thank you so much,
Reggie.
Damon.
Take care. Thanks for listening to this episode of Now We're Here. Make sure you follow the show and share this episode with a friend. Stay tuned for more episodes as we shine spotlights on the leaders who are not just keeping up with the industry, but driving it forward.